Okay, I think we're ready to get started. So welcome to the What Families Want to Know webinar from the University of California Education Abroad Program, or UCEAP. My name is Noah Cutchins, and I am an Associate Program Director here at UCEAP. This webinar is being recorded and will be available on the UCEAP website. This presentation is intended for all fall and year program participants and their support networks, including immediate family, extended relatives, friends, and any other individual a student considers to be a support person. My colleagues and I on this slide will be sharing UCEAP tools, support, and resources that prepare your students for this exciting cultural and academic journey. Throughout the presentation, we'll include QR codes that link to some important resources. So take out your phone, have your camera ready to scan the QR codes or take pictures of them throughout the presentation. But before we get started, we want to ask you some questions. And so we'd appreciate it if you could complete this quick poll to help us understand our audience. And the questions that we want you to answer are: what type of attendee are you? Are you a UCEAP student, a parent, guardian, or support network, or are you both joining together today? And then we would like to ask you if you're studying in Africa, Asia, Australia, New Zealand, Europe, the Middle East, or the Americas. Just give everyone a second to fill out their answers, and we will let you know who all are. Okay, so today we're 86% parent, guardian, and support network. UCAP students are 13%. We have only 1% joining together. And it looks like we are mostly going to Europe with 62%, 13% to the Americas, 19% to Asia, 1% to Africa and the Middle East, respectively, and 5% to Australia and New Zealand. Thank you for answering those questions. Okay, so today we'll be covering data privacy, an overview of the UCEAP portal and its resources, pre-departure requirements, academics, health and safety topics, finances. We will not be covering program-specific information such as visas, housing, post-university applications, or academic requirements. However, we will show you where you can access this information and these topics throughout the presentation and at the end. And we hope to answer your questions throughout this presentation. And if we don't, please jot your questions down. Later in the webinar, we'll open a live Q&A feature, and you'll be able to ask any of the questions, and we have many staff on standby ready to answer once this feature opens up. We'll also have dedicated Q&A time at the end of the webinar to finish out the questions that are unanswered. All right, valuing and safeguarding your privacy at UCAP. We are committed to protecting the privacy and confidentiality of our students, and doing so is a legal requirement under U.S. federal laws, such as the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, otherwise known as FERPA, California law, such as the Information Privacy Act, and other international laws. Because of these legal protections afforded students, a UC staff member is generally prohibited from disclosing personal information such as students' contact information, location, program of participation, academic records, financial records to any third party without the student's prior consent. This prohibition includes the student's family and friends. But students can authorize access to their record to family members during the application process if they haven't done so already, or by sending an email to the contact on this slide, privacy@uceap.universityofcalifornia.edu, to update their privacy preferences. However, we expect students to be the primary communicators with UCAP staff in California and when they go abroad. Managing communications throughout the process is part of the growth that students benefit from studying abroad. So, in light of these laws, we do encourage each student to proactively share information directly with you, their support network, and authorize consent for disclosure of information to any trusted individuals in advance of their travels whenever they feel it is appropriate to do so. We also understand that students want to connect with other UCEAP students and who are participating on their program. They may want to coordinate travel plans or start building a community. But however, due to FERPA regulations, we cannot share the contact information directly with other participants. Students will have an opportunity to connect with other UC students on their program, either through campus-based events or virtual events hosted by the UCEAP system-wide office. We encourage your students to reach out to their UCEAP advisor about these events for information on how to set up a group chat on a social media platform such as Discord. All right, UCA and UCEAP have robust staff of experienced professionals to support your students throughout their entire study abroad journey. And we are all here going to highlight various offices and explain who your main contacts at point are for the specific topics. First, let's talk about the UC campus contacts. Since every student is still considered a UC student while in the program, they will still need to work with their UC campus offices on the campus-specific topics listed on this slide. The QR code on this slide will take you to the page on the UCEAP website that lists the campus study abroad contact information. Students will need to go to their campus study abroad office for certain campus-based processes to prepare for their time abroad, along with the other items listed on this box here on the left. Students will go to their campus academic advisors and departments to discuss any academic items listed on the center box of this slide. And we'll go into more detail later in the academic section of this presentation. And finally, students will go to their campus financial aid office to get information on what types of aid are available, along with other financial topics listed on the box here on the right. Last chance to take a picture. The UCEAP system-wide office works very closely with the campus offices to support your students. Once students have been nominated to a program, they will work with the staff in our office on their program-specific requirements. Your student can find contact information from our system-wide staff on the UCEAP website and in their UCEAP portal. You can also use the QR codes on this slide. Every program has a designated study abroad advisor, program specialists who work closely together on the logistical aspects of the program, questions about pre-departure requirements, and all other items listed in this first box, such as visas, host applications, and housing will go to the assigned study abroad advisor and program specialists. Additionally, academic specialists assist with UCEAP academic policies and provide guidance on course registration process abroad. We can answer questions about grades, petitions, academic records, and UCEAP study list. And lastly, we also have our UCEAP finance accountants dedicated by country who can answer questions on program-related statements, fees and collection timelines, withdrawal fees and refunds in the event of a program withdrawal. Note the question about financial aid would need to be answered in consultation with the campus financial aid officer, as mentioned previously. Our International Health, Safety, and Crisis Management team provides guidance on health and safety matters, and they support the health clearance process and UCEAP travel insurance. They also provide emergency response and support, which my colleague Julie Pollard will share more about later in this presentation.
You can skip this one.
The on-site support structure will look different from program to program, but no matter the program, students will have a main point of contact for on-site matters. Some programs have a local study center, UCAP branded. Other programs have staff support at the host university's international office, while others will have local support through a study abroad provider. For more information on the type of on-site support your student's program provides, review the support tab on the UCEAP program pages. Your student will also get the contact information for their primary on-site support staff in their arrival information and program guide. And at this point, I would like to turn it over to my colleague Ashley Arbonites, who will cover the UCEAP portal.
Thanks, Noah. Hi, everyone. My name is Ashley Arbonites, and I'm the Pre-Departure Managing Supervisor. Your student has a private account in the UCEAP portal, which contains a wealth of program, financial, academic, and health and safety information. The pre-departure menu contains the requirements and tasks that they must complete before departure, and it also contains other program-specific details, including their program dates, their insurance details, health and safety information, UCEAP policies, petitions, and, as Noah previously mentioned, their UCEAP contacts. Students can track their progress using the checklist in the portal and refer back to the resources as needed, but they should also be checking their email regularly for important reminders and updates before and during their program. We're not going to go into every single part of the pre-departure area of the portal, but I do want to highlight a few key resources in this section that apply to all of our programs. If there is a particular area of interest that you would like to learn more about, I would encourage you to sit down with your student or set up a video call so you could review those resources together. So this slide includes a sample of the pre-departure requirements section of the UCEAP portal. The items within the requirements section will vary slightly by program, but each item includes resources and links with more information, including the following. The first are your program guides. This resource contains detailed information on local emergency contacts, academic information, packing tips, money and banking abroad, internet and phone access abroad, housing and meals, cultural awareness, and disability accommodation information. The next I want to highlight is the housing information. Housing varies greatly by program and can be everything from on or off campus dorms, apartments, or even homestays. The housing information item is going to include details about what options are available, what does the reservation or application process look like, as well as important timelines and deadlines. It is important to note that your student is responsible for taking the steps listed in the portal in order to secure their housing abroad. Another is the visa and entry requirements. These are also going to vary by program, so it's essential that your student reviews the visa guidance carefully. The process and timeline are going to depend on several factors, including a student's citizenship, the program duration, visa regulations, visa processing timelines at the consulate, etc. And finally, the arrival information. Once available, the arrival information, including details on how to get to the program locations, who to contact in the event of a flight delay, and much more, are going to be posted for your students in their portal. We know that students are busy with their classes, extracurricular activities, but rather than completing these tasks for them, we encourage your student to take an active role in preparing for their program. You can remind them to utilize existing resources and to reach out to UCEAP staff on their own if they do have questions. Next, I want to talk a little bit about flights and program dates. So all students are responsible for purchasing their own flights, as UCEAP does not arrange group travel to and from program locations. We understand the desire to purchase airfare early, but we strongly recommend waiting until the program dates are finalized. Students are also encouraged to purchase refundable and changeable airline tickets in the event that their plans change. UCEAP cannot refund ticket costs if your student needs to adjust or rebook their flights. The program date section will appear in the pre-departure menu over on the left with that big orange arrow once the dates have been finalized. At this point, many but not all program dates and calendars should be available. If they haven't been posted yet, your student will be notified via email once the dates are available or if there are any adjustments to the dates. I also want to note that some of our partner institutions don't finalize their schedules as early as we are accustomed to here at UC, but know that we work really hard to share those program dates with students as soon as possible. In terms of arrival and departure dates, students are required to be present on site from the program start date all the way through the program end date. Arriving by the program start date ensures that students get key information essential for a successful time abroad and allows them to participate in the initial bonding activities with other students. Students not on site by the official start date are subject to disciplinary action. It may be possible for a student to arrive early or stay after their program ends, but it's going to depend on a couple of factors, including the visa duration, their citizenship, and the availability of housing. Any interested students that want to stay beyond their program dates should contact their program specialist for more information. So now we're going to launch a quick poll to see how familiar you are with the resources that we've shared so far. So the question says, has your student shown you the UCEAP portal and other pre-departure resources we have covered? Yes, I've seen my student's account in the portal and reviewed these resources. Yes, I've seen some, but not all of the resources. No, this is the first time I've been introduced to these resources, or I'm not sure. We'll give it a couple more seconds so we can see where folks on the call are at. All right. So it looks like most of you haven't seen these before, but there are a solid number of you who have seen all the portal and or some of these resources. So if you haven't, once again, I would encourage you to get in touch with your student, ask them to log into the portal and walk you through some of those resources or to share those, some of the links that are included in their UCEP portal. All right. As we think about continuing on with their pre-departure preparations, your student is going to have at least 3 mandatory orientations. So each campus hosts their own campus-specific orientation, which typically covers campus-based study abroad processes. The UCEAP staff, study center staff, or partner institution staff will host at least one virtual orientation during the pre-departure phase. These orientations cover the same topics included in the UCEP portal, including visas, housing, banking, health and safety, academics, including course information. And finally, the on-site orientation will cover the practical aspects of living abroad, including local transportation, emergency numbers, health and safety considerations, how to access medical care abroad, how to adjust to cultural differences, both in their personal life and in the academic space, as well as any administrative and academic processes at their new host institution. So on this slide, I want to take some time to reflect and think about what your student should expect and what are some general tips that we recommend in terms of success. So we know that your student is really excited about the opportunity to travel, immerse themselves in a new culture, and make new friends. Just as they did when they came to UC, they'll need to take the initiative to really start building that community abroad. These connections can really help ease any feelings of loneliness and provide support as they navigate the challenges, discomfort, and growth associated with living in a new environment. As you might imagine, things may look and operate very differently than what they're used to on their UC campus. While these differences can be unsettling at first, it's important to remember that that's all part of the experience. Navigating these differences and challenges helps students develop key skills, including confidence, adaptability, and resilience. So encourage your student to get outside their comfort zone, practice being patient and flexible, and to make some time for reflection. If your student does experience an issue abroad, such as having no hot water in their apartment or conflict with a roommate, they may alert you as you are part of their support network. While it is helpful for you to empathize with them, remind them to contact their on-site staff rather than trying to solve the problem for them from afar. Local staff are best equipped to assist with both routine and urgent matters. Later on in this presentation, our Director of International Health, Safety, and Crisis Management will cover what to do if your student alerts you to a more serious health and safety emergency. Our next speaker is going to be Hannah Vandersall.
Hi, everyone. My name is Hannah Vandersall. I'm the Academics Managing Supervisor at UCEAP. So all students will earn direct UC credit for the courses they take abroad through UCEAP. UCEAP will automatically transmit courses, units, and grades back to the UC registrar, and they will be added to your student's UC transcript. However, whether the courses can count for major, minor, general education, or breadth requirements is determined at the individual UC campus. Therefore, your student should initiate conversations on how coursework applies to their degree progress by speaking to their department or college advisors early and continue communication with those advisors throughout the entire study abroad experience. Some campus-based academic advisors will give approvals prior to UCEAP participation, but many will not. Students should retain all their academic work from their time abroad to help facilitate the articulation process. It is up to your student to understand the petition process and to follow through with the final steps upon their return. As mentioned previously, we have a team of specialists at the UCEAP system-wide office who serve as your students' academic advisors for their time abroad. The academic specialists provide your student with information on how to register for courses, enrollment requirements, pass-no-pass policies, assessment and grading processes, as well as how to navigate different academic cultural contexts abroad. Your student will have contact with the academic specialist prior to departure, and then will continue to work with them while they are abroad. Grading methodologies may differ significantly among different higher education systems around the world. Understanding and adapting to those differences is part of the study abroad journey. The academic specialists and on-site staff will provide students with information on how assessment methods may differ than that of UC. They will also provide deadlines for study list submissions and grading option changes. Pass-no-pass options are often available for UCEAP coursework, similarly as they are on UC campuses, to mitigate GPA concerns. It is important that students adhere to these deadlines just as they would on their home UC campus. If applicable, your student will receive grading translation information after they arrive in country. Grading and grade transmission abroad takes much longer than at UC. Students must be prepared for their grades to take on average from 1 to 3 months to transfer back to their home campus. Students who plan to graduate immediately following their UCEAP term abroad should connect with their campus advisors for information on the graduation filing process and timeline. And we are now going to share a quick academics quiz. So the question is asking, which of the following statements are true about UCEAP academics? Select all that apply. 1, students are responsible for submitting their study abroad transcript to their home UC campus for UCEAP courses to be posted to their official UC transcripts. 2, grades can take between 1 to 3 months to be reported back to the UC campus. 3, academic specialists or on-site staff will provide students with information on course registration procedure and enrollment requirements while abroad. And 4, students automatically receive direct UC credit for their courses on UCAP, but must petition their department to satisfy specific major, minor, or GE requirements. Let's see what you all responded with. We can go ahead and see the responses. All right. So for those of you that selected all but the first statement, you are correct. The first statement is false. So students who study on UCAP will have their coursework and grades automatically transmitted to their UC Office of the Registrar. However, students still must petition for those courses to count toward their degree requirements. So please remind your student to initiate those conversations with their campus departmental advisors if they haven't done so already, so they can discuss how their planned coursework might apply to their degree progress. Moving on to academic challenges. The academics team is responsible for maintaining academic standards while helping students to navigate academic challenges. The first challenge is focusing on the purpose. Fundamentally, embarking on a UCEAP program is not travel abroad, it is study abroad. It is education. The primary purpose is learning inside and outside of the classroom in another part of the world. Students will be in a new culture and experience differences in learning and teaching. That's a big part of why you learn so much when you're studying abroad. Students need to be ready to adjust to cultural differences in teaching and learning. If your student is registered with their Disability Services Office on their home UC campus and receives academic accommodations, encourage them to obtain a disability accommodations letter for their study abroad program and submit it to their UCEAP program specialist. UCEAP will help facilitate or advise on the process of requesting academic accommodations at the host institution, but it can take some time to finalize those accommodation plans. Therefore, it is in your student's best interest to start the process as soon as possible, and ideally a few months before departure, to investigate whether the specific accommodations will be available. The accommodations your student receives at their home UC campus may be different or unavailable at the host institution abroad. Sometimes your student will not learn whether accommodations are available at the host institution until after they arrive for their program. Remember, your student has a wide academic support network, including their campus academic advisors, UCEAP academic specialists, on-site staff, and associate deans. If they find that they are struggling with academic adjustments, encourage them to reach out for help. Our next speaker will be Julie Pollard.
Thank you, Hannah. Good evening, support network members. I'm the Director of International Health, Safety, and Crisis Management. Here, safety is a partnership and a shared responsibility that requires students to be well-informed and active participants in their own well-being. Our department collectively has decades worth of experience supporting student safety. We provide tools, resources, and guidance on how to remain reasonably healthy and safe while abroad, and provide emergency support when things go wrong. I'd like to discuss supporting your study abroad student, understanding what health and safety resources students have access to, and how to utilize them. All resources described are available to all participants and are detailed in the student portal that Ashley previewed earlier. On your screen, you see the UCEAP portal with arrows pointed to insurance and health and safety. Safety recommendations specific to your student's program are detailed in the health and safety section. We encourage students to review this section of the portal with their support network. All students must obtain a health clearance. It is an important and required component of studying abroad. Students should have already started this process. The instructions are in the UCEAP portal under pre-departure requirements. This process is meant to help guide conversations about program participation with a medical professional. The instructions may differ based on the UC campus, but this slide shows the overall process. It is important to be honest about any conditions managed or concerns regarding wellness while studying abroad. Prescribed medication should be researched for legality and availability in the program country. If specific concerns necessitate seeing a medical specialist, such as a psychiatrist, it is important to discuss a treatment plan and what is needed in order to be successful in the program. Please encourage your student to be mindful of the deadlines for this important process. All students are required to complete the online health and safety course. This slide provides an overview of the learning outcomes. The QR code takes you to a short video explaining the contents of this course. It was developed by the University of California experts and includes essential and helpful information to better prepare for study abroad. The first 4 sections of this course cover health and safety topics that benefit all students studying abroad in all program locations. There may be another country-specific section depending on your program location. The University of California partners with several organizations to support students. Chubb is our insurance provider for the UC travel policy, and AXA is the medical and travel assistance provider of this policy. LIRA is our virtual mental health provider, and Crisis 24 is our risk management partner helping the UC operate globally. In the next slides, we'll explore what each organization is, what they provide, and how their services can be utilized. Students are automatically enrolled in the student travel insurance policy designed by Chubb. The plan provides medical and non-medical benefits. Student travel insurance serves as the primary medical coverage while abroad, but it is not the same thing as health insurance in the United States. It does not cover preventative care, but offers unique coverage such as the emergency reunion benefit. If a student is enrolled in UCShip while on their home UC campus, they will need to continue that enrollment while on their UC EAP program. Costs for medical care must be paid out of pocket and are then reimbursable according to the policy details. Some benefits include prescription drug benefits, mental health counseling and a crisis phone line, medical and security evacuation, and continued treatment for pre-existing and covered conditions. AXA is the travel assistance provider for this policy. They can connect students with specific medical care while abroad, evacuate in the event of a serious medical emergency, and provide global health teleconsultation through their app called Dr. Please. If a student has a more complex medical case that might require specialist treatment plan while they are abroad, AXA has a continuity of care planning option that can assist in organizing the support needed before leaving the US. We know that insurance is a complex topic, and therefore we provide extensive information on the UCEAP website, including the policy brochure. Use the QR code on this slide to access this section of our website. We also have a staff member in our department that is dedicated to managing insurance issues and questions. LYRA offers virtual mental health sessions as well as a DIY approach through their online library of videos, articles, strategies, and meditations. LYRA provides up to 20 mental health counseling sessions for no additional fee. There is no paperwork. No fees are required. Students can simply sign up and attend their counseling sessions. Coverage begins on arrival day in the program country. The QR code takes you to the web page to sign up. Crisis 24 provides risk advice and alerts, as well as security evacuation services. All students are automatically enrolled to receive travel alerts for their program country and city. These alerts keep students informed of events that may impact daily life. It's important to read them and consider the advice provided. The Crisis 24 app allows students to research any location and obtain global travel tips. A personal profile can be created where alert notifications are customized. This is helpful when planning personal travel to other cities. For example, while on a personal trip, you are alerted to a protest happening near a museum you hope to visit. Having this information allows the student to reconsider their plan and be properly informed about what is happening in a location that they might be unfamiliar with. The Crisis 24 Horizon app makes this process easy. During a crisis, UCEAP will issue a welfare check. This means that a student will receive an email and a text from our emergency communications system asking for them to check in. We conduct a welfare check drill for all students to familiarize them with the welfare check tool and this process in the event of an actual emergency. The drill occurs in the beginning of the program and it's online. Responding to the welfare check drill is a requirement and it's stated in the UCEAP participation agreement. Students must also update their local contact information while abroad in the UCEAP portal to ensure that we can reach them during a crisis. We recognize that eSIMs are a popular way to maintain data access internationally at an affordable rate. Please note that this does not allow a student to make a phone call, which may be required in an emergency. It is important to have a phone and a plan that allows calls to the UCEAP emergency phone line, to Chubb AXA to open a travel insurance case, or to dial local emergency services. If a student is traveling outside of their program city, they are required to complete a travel sign-out in the UCEAP portal so that they can be reached in the event of an emergency. If a student does not comply with these responsibilities, it might result in disciplinary action. We operate an emergency phone line that is answered 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Calls are answered by an emergency answering service and then directed to myself, a member of my department, or senior leadership in the global program team, such as NOAA. Our emergency responders are trained and tested in dealing with all types of emergencies. The website listed on this slide is UCEAP's In an Emergency webpage, which defines an emergency and details how to report incidents. If there is only one thing that you remember from my remarks today, please remember that this webpage exists. UCEAP in an Emergency. As a final reminder, remember that UCEAP's website and student portal are filled with resources and information that students should be reading. Using these resources proactively rather than reactively will help maintain wellness while abroad and cultivate an understanding of risks. And last but certainly not least, please reach out and ask for help before a situation becomes more serious. Wellness is truly a partnership, and together our goal is for students to have a successful academic experience. Can we please launch our health and safety poll? So our question is, which of the following are required of program participants? Your choices are a valid health clearance, completing the UCEAP health and safety course, responding to a welfare check in the UCEAP portal, downloading the Crisis 24 Horizons app on your mobile phone, and access to a phone that can make and receive calls. It is multiple choice. Which of these are required of all program participants? And let's see those results. Across the board. Okay. I love that everyone got the valid health clearance. So all of these are required except downloading the Crisis 24 app. That is not required. We suggest it and highly encourage it, but it is not required. I will now turn it over to our next speaker, Michael Marcelli.
Thanks, Julie. My name is Michael Marcelli, and I am the Director of Budget and Finance here at the University of California Education Abroad program. I want to thank all of you, our students, our parents, guardians, and the support networks for joining us on What Families Want to Know webinar tonight. At this point in your student's journey, you're likely making plans and anticipating expenses for their study abroad program. I'd like to spend some time walking you through and all the support available to students regarding program costs, making payments here at UCEAP, and ensuring that you have a seamless financial aid experience as you move from your home campus to program participation with us going abroad at UCEAP, and then a successful handover return back to your home UC campus. Every program here has a dedicated financial accountant who is available to assist your student with questions regarding UCP's budgets, program payments, and credit balance disbursements in conjunction with your home campus financial aid office. You also will find country-specific contact information for your finance accountant on the UCEAP contacts page, which was referenced earlier in this presentation. Total estimated program costs, including fees paid to UCEAP, out-of-pocket expenses, are all available publicly on the Costs tab located within the individual program pages on the UCEAP website. From here, you will be able to have a comprehensive understanding of the costs associated with the program. Financial aid offices will include all program and personal expenses when determining an individual's financial aid eligibility. There are further breakdowns of fees and more finance information located within the UCEAP portal, which can be found under the Finances section. In this first section of the estimated budget view, you will see details about fees paid to UCEAP, including campus fees, UCEAP specific fees, and UC fees. Next is a section that estimates personal out-of-pocket expenses, including round-trip airfare, housing, meals, local transportation costs, pre-departure expenses such as visa fees, and other incidentals associated with participating on our programs. These expenses are updated annually, including data collected from students and from our partners abroad. The fees and payments section has information about accessing the Transact payment portal to make program payments and other details regarding financial aid and with our withdrawal fees. Payment deadlines vary by program and can be found within this page. UCEAP uses a third-party payment processor known as Transact to collect online payments for all of our UCEAP fees. Students can invite parents to Transact to make payments on their behalf if they wish. Credit cards, debit cards, and e-check online payments are available. Please note that the date statement will read University of California, Santa Barbara, UCSB, and not UCEAP on your statements. There are detailed instructions on how to make payments and how to give third-party access to make payments at the bottom of the fees and payments page. Extended payment plans are available for your student while participating on UCEAP options. Please contact your country's finance accountant for more details. For students eligible for financial aid from their home campus, Aid is transferred to us at UCAP prior to the program start date. Students do not need to do anything to get their aid transferred. This will be an automatic process. Aid is typically dispersed no sooner than 10 days prior to the program start date. However, each University of California campus has a unique timeline, and we may experience delays in preparing aid. This means that you and your student may need to make arrangements to cover some of the out-of-pocket expenses, such as airfare, prior to aid disbursements. Please note that your student, if on financial aid, will not be required to make the $950 first deposit payment fees. There is a $500 withdrawal fee for any withdrawals received after the deadline, May 1st for fall and for academic year programs, and prior to the program start date. There may also be additional withdrawal fees assessed by our partners, but more information can be found in our fees and payments section in the finance menu contained within the UCAP portal. If the student is not accepted into the program, no fees will be billed. The financial impact of withdrawing involves many factors, including the timing of the withdrawal and the program your student is participating in. We highly encourage you to review the withdrawal information, your student, and the fees in the payments section located within the finance menu of the UCP portal. Thank you for your attention, and now I'm going to hand it over to my colleague, Zach Frieders.
Great, thank you, Michael. And that concludes the prepared presentation for this webinar. My name is Zach Frieders, and I'm Associate Program Director here at UCEAP, and I want to thank all of our attendees for joining us tonight, and we hope that you found this presentation helpful as your students plan to depart for their programs abroad. If you have any questions that we weren't able to answer during the presentation, the Q&A feature is now open. You can find that tab at the bottom of the Zoom window there, so please go ahead and enter any questions that you have into that tab, and our team will answer them. I'll call out a few questions to answer live, while others might be addressed directly in the chat panel. I also want to note that we're focusing more on general questions, and so we might not answer program or student-specific questions, but for those, you can contact the program specialist, academic specialist, or finance analyst for your program, and those contacts can be found on the UCEAP contact section of the website. So with that, I'll go ahead and get started with the Q&A. My first question, Nancy, I think I'm going to throw this one to you. This question is, my student has a UC waiver. Do I need to do anything special related to UC waivers for study abroad?
I can take that. No, it's the same process. We cannot allow students to waive out of the UC travel insurance that is required. So think of them as two separate things. We're just simply communicating to you that if you are doing whatever you're doing with SHIP currently, you have to continue doing, whether that's accepting SHIP or waiving out of SHIP.
Okay, great. Thank you, Julie. I have at least one, looks like two questions here about housing generally. When will housing be available, and how do we find resources and next steps to take about housing, and particularly if it's not provided as part of the program?
Yeah, I can take this question. So as I mentioned during my portion of the presentation, housing really is going to vary. We have some programs where housing is prearranged for students, whether it's at a dorm or an apartment or a homestay. And then we also have programs that are on the other side of the spectrum where students are arranging their own housing. So regardless of what their options are, there are a number of resources that are available publicly on the UCEAP website, as well as in the individual students portal under their pre-departure requirements. There's going to be a specific document that talks about their housing information and the steps that they have to take if your student is in a program where housing is not arranged for them. We work very closely with our study centers and on-site staff to put together very comprehensive housing guides that tell students what neighborhoods to look for, what are the average costs of rents, what are some websites where they might be able to identify, what is feedback from previous students who have participated in this program in the sense of how did they find housing, and what things did they learn throughout the process. So there's a lot of information that's available, especially in that housing information section. Also within each of your students' program guides, that's going to outline more of the details on what housing options are available. And as I mentioned, with a lot of the other aspects of the program, it's really going to vary quite a bit on the timeline. Some students may have to apply for housing while they're doing their host university application, which usually takes place relatively early on in the process, whereas other students, there may be a specific timeline of when applications open and students are going to submit that. Those timelines are managed by our partner institutions primarily if it happens to be in that particular category of housing option.
Great, thank you, Ashley. Finance team, I'm going to throw three questions in a row that are somewhat related. The first one is students' financial aid package the same as it is for UCAP as it is on their UC campus? That's the first question. Related to that is, do students pay regular UCSB or their UC campus quarter tuition along with UCAP tuition? And I'll have a follow-up after that.
Sure, I'll answer that. Thanks for the question. It's going to depend. Oftentimes, quarter campus participants will participate on a semester long for fall program. So your student will pay the UC fall semester rate, and then our academics team will work with your student on converting those semester length units back into quarter. There is also additional UCAP fees, and they're all going to be unique to each option. So if you'll email us at I'll put it in the chat, the email, we can help you and work and coordinate with what the exact fees will be for your student participation.
Great, thank you. And then the follow-up on this is, the question is that the students received a bill from a partner university in Japan. Is something like that common? And where should that bill be paid, to UCAP, directly to the partner institution?
That's a very specific question, and if you'll email us with some of the details, we'll happily get back to you. Let me put the student finance email into the chat.
And
Great,
I can
thank you,
just share generally too that there may be certain fees that students have to pay to their host institution, but again, those will be communicated directly from the partner, and they are estimated in that estimated program costs, those out-of-pocket expenses that Michael was mentioning in his section of the presentation. So there are certain fees that they may pay to UCAP, and then they may also pay to their host institution. But I also want to reiterate that your students are not paying double tuition. They are only paying UC tuition. They're not paying that host university tuition, but there may be certain fees that your student may have to pay at that host institution in order to access some of the student services like the gym or certain things like that.
Great. It looks like Michael's answering this question, but I have two. There was a question here about the Cal fee waiver and whether or not that applies to UCAP. And it looks like there was another question about that earlier, so I was going to call that out in case you wanted to answer that live from finance.
For CalVet waiver, I'm going to ask, because it's a specific question, if you'll email us at the email account that I'm going to send you to, studentfinance@ucap.universityofcalifornia.edu, but I'm going to put it into the chat.
Okay, great. Thank you, Michael. I've got a question on travel logistics here. Do you recommend eSIMs? And what are the options if my phone doesn't have a place for a physical SIM card?
Good question. So one of the things I always like to tell folks to start with is whoever your phone provider is, T-Mobile, Verizon, just have a quick search for Verizon International Phone Plan. That's a great place to start to understand what your options are. Most carriers have an option to use your plan, but pay $100 a month instead of whatever your plan cost is to access unlimited data in more than 200 countries. The trick is that there's usually a limitation on the number of minutes that you can actually talk on the phone. But if you use services like WhatsApp, or if you're using and if you have an iPhone and you're using the iChat option, the iMessage, then that's pulling from your data and not the phone minutes. That's usually a great way to ensure that students have access to a phone that works so they can make calls, they can receive calls, and they're using that unlimited data while they're abroad. That's usually the best option. That's going to have the least amount of complexities if you're just using your existing phone plan but changing to an international monthly plan.
Okay, great. I'm going to kind of merge a couple of questions here. I know the couple people have asked if this material on the slides would be available today, and in the answered question section of the Q&A, we put the link for this, so you'll be able to get the presentation after the fact. Ashley, Noah, I'm also just wondering, there were some questions in here about, will students get information similar to this website, receive an email? How will they know that they'll receive, that they've done all the required items that we've gone over today? I know that's going to be kind of something that you'll be finding in the portal, but maybe talking a little bit more about the orientation and the onset process.
Yeah, so in terms of the orientation, as one of their pre-departure requirement items, it's going to list when their pre-departure orientation is. In addition to their orientation, all of your students should have already attended a welcome session. So this was a chance for them to get to know their UCEAP participants, get a sort of high-level overview of what the pre-departure tasks that they're going to have to do are, as well as looking at the timeline and things that they should be working on now. So your students are also going to get reminders via email for any certain upcoming deadlines or follow-ups if deadlines are missed on certain items or actions. So there's a lot of information in the portal. There is a checklist feature that students can use to keep track themselves. But our staff will reach out if there are things that are overdue. But it is always much preferred that students are utilizing their calendars or other methods to stay on top of all their pre-departure requirements so that they make sure they can continue participating in the program.
Okay, thank you, Ashley. I've got another question for you, Julie. If my student has severe food allergies, what should they do to prepare?
Oh, very good question. So, we have lots of students that have food allergies. So, the best thing is to ensure that you understand how the language where the student is going talks about food allergies and then the specific words for translation. Make sure they understand those. We also recommend printing them off, keeping them as a card with them so that when they engage with people around food service in that country, they can continually refer back. Even if verbally they might not be able to communicate very well, you could show and people can read and understand that there is a food allergy. We can also recommend that you speak with the international office at the partner university or the UCAP Study Center if there's one in your program location. And those folks can also help guide you on navigating your food allergy in that local context. There might be certain foods that are very common where this ingredient is a part of that. So be mindful of thinking about the cultural differences in food. We've also had some students that have actually developed a food allergy while abroad, or they didn't know they had one and they discovered it while they were abroad. So, utilizing emergency services, every student should know how to call the local equivalent of 911 in their program country. That information is shared in the UCAP Health and Safety tab. It's talked about in the on-site orientations that students are required to attend. So it's very important that they retain that information, especially knowing that they have a food allergy. If something does happen, making sure that they get access to the medical care that they need. If they have things like EpiPens and they might need to see a doctor to get a refill of those pens because they used it while they are abroad, the travel insurance provides coverage for that. And AXA, that I had talked about in my presentation, can actually help connect a student with a local doctor that can help arrange for that prescription to be issued using the travel insurance program.
Great, thank you, Julie. Ashley, no, I know this can be kind of a specific question, but I'm going to generalize it about how students, the timeline for when students know that they've been confirmed or placed into the program. When will they know that they've gotten into the program?
Yeah, so this once again is going to vary depending on their program. Some of our programs do not require additional review by our host partners, while on the other hand, there are some that do require students to submit a host university application for final review and acceptance into the program. Those timelines are going to vary quite a bit. Some of them are relatively early, some of them are relatively late. For example, I used to work with some of our programs in Taiwan, and those notifications came out in mid to late June. Sometimes our notifications for programs in China, for example, came out in early July. So those are relatively late. But as Michael mentioned, if students are not accepted by our host university partner, they've done everything, they've maintained their eligibility, their GPA, as well as completed the host application and all other requirements. If a student isn't accepted by our partner, they would not be assessed that withdrawal fee. And we would work with the home UC campus to determine sort of what are the next steps for that individual student. And again, those are relatively rare. And depending on when they happen, we may also be able to work with the student to see if there's another UCEAP program available to them. But again, it's going to depend a little bit on that timeline. If your student does participate in a program that does have a host university application and they're waiting for that final confirmation, they either will get that final confirmation directly from the host university or also an update from their UCEAP program specialist alerting them to having received that final acceptance.
Great, thank you, Ashley. Being mindful from time, I'm going to grab one other question here. This is a question specifically about any assistance for students returning to find housing when they come back to school. I want to generalize this question more to say, talking about what kind of experience students should expect when they return back to their UC campus. I know we have several folks on here who worked at the UC campuses, so if there's anyone who wants to weigh in on the returnee process, housing, reentry, all that sort of stuff.
I think a really great place to start for this is those study abroad offices on your individual campus. They are supporting hundreds, if not thousands, of students who go abroad every year, both on UCEAP as well as campus-based program or other study abroad options. So they do have a lot of resources. The nice thing is that we have a lot of students that participate in our program year-round. So a lot of times, if your student is going abroad for the fall, they may be able to take the spot of a student who is going abroad in the spring or those kind of things. So there are a lot of different options. We do also, Noah, do you want to talk a little bit about our reentry course?
Sure. One of the initiatives UCEAP has taken on is a reentry module. It's a self-guided course where students go through many of the conceptual concepts of reentry and what it means to come back from the experience and apply growth into various concepts, whether it be professional, personal, academic, and it's something that we recommend and is available to every UCEAP student.
All right, thank you, Noah. I know that a couple of the questions here are still being answered in the Q&A panel, but I believe we have one more poll that we wanted to post before the end of the hour, asking for your feedback on this presentation and any topics that you'd like to see covered in the future. Do we want to go ahead and post that?
There was also a question about if the answered questions will appear in the recording, and because many of them might be useful as well, even if you didn't ask the specific question.
We have never had that question before, but it's definitely something I'm happy to look into, and we can work with our marketing team to see how we may be able to anonymize and distribute some of the information and the answers that were provided to the questions submitted.
Well, thank you all for the wonderful questions and for joining us this evening. And on behalf of all of us at UCEAP, we're very happy to be able to present this webinar and for your time joining us. And if we didn't get to anything that we didn't cover today, keep in mind that we won't cover program information, but that information was provided about how to reach that. And there's a recording of this that will be on the What Families Want to Know webpage for your reference. The QR codes on the slide right here will take you to that page. So if you pull out your phone now, you'll be there. Might take some time for the recording to go up as well as the presentation. And that will contain any shared QR codes that throughout the presentation you'll be able to revisit anytime going back through the slides. Thank you again for your time. We look forward to supporting you and your students through what we hope will be a transformational journey ahead.